morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we're going to be looking at the top 10 cards from Night Wanderer. Well, Night Wanderer over in Japan, what is going to be Shrouded Fable over here. One quick note, there is that really nice Pecharunt promo that's going to be in the free pack blister, and I suppose also going to be in the Elite Trainer box, which is looking very nice. So what I made a video on the other day where it can potentially do 100 damage before your opponent actually draws a card. Potentially very cool, but we don't know how Japan's getting it. And it's a promo. It's a little bit up in the air, that one, at the moment. So we're not counting that one for now. I just want it on the record that that card looks pretty cool. So starting off with a couple of cards that came close but didn't quite make it, we've got ourselves Sliverwing. Sliverwing is fun. The main thing we got about Sliverwing here is 2 energy, 20 damage, but it does 120 more if your opponent's got a future Pokemon in play. It's an Iron Hands counter. And I'm sure it can do some other stuff as well, which is adorable. But it's mostly an Iron Hands counter, and it's a decent one. We've also got Revavroom EX, single metal energy, and as long as it moves from the bench to the active this turn, it does 140 damage for a single energy. But with weakness, it does a perfect number to KO stuff like Pidgeot, for instance, which is very relevant right now. This is a very good card you should be aware of. We've also got Cassiopeia, a very nice card. It can only be played if it is the only card in your hand, if it's the last card in your hand, but you get to search your deck for any 2 cards, which is obviously fantastic. One to bear in mind. And then we've got a couple of stadiums, Neutral Center and Nighttime Academy. Neutral Center is the one whereby your non-rule box Pokemon don't take damage from EXs and Vs. It's one of those ones you have to be a bit careful with. You can't just play it down willy-nilly. You've got to make sure you play it at the right time, but it can really save you in some late games if your opponent doesn't have the counter. And then Nighttime Academy, we've got the one that lets you put a card from your hand on top of your deck. There are some really specific uses for this, but it's also really good at protecting yourself against an INO. Just put whatever card you want on top of your deck so that INO can't hurt you. It's fun. So starting off at number 10, we've got Genesect. It's not the attack here, free energy, 100 damage, terrible. But if this Pokemon has a Pokemon Tool card attached, your opponent cannot play A-Spec cards from their hand. It's awesome. Things like Prime Catcher, giving that extra gusting, can't be played, you will be safe. Things like Hero's Cape, giving an extra 100 HP, cannot be played, you will be safe. It is an extremely good card that is going to counter, and because it's one-sided, you can still play your A-Specs. There are going to be games won by Genesect. In at number 9, we've got Dartrix, and Dartrix is a weird one. It's got United Wings. That attack whereby for a single energy, you do 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in the discard pile that have United Wings. It's very good. The thing is, we've had United Wings for a while and it's been fine. This is a stage 1, so you can't start with it. It's another 4 cards that can go into your discard pile, which means United Wings as a whole get stronger. And it's a grass type, so you're hitting a new weakness on stuff like Charizard. All of that gets added up and makes Dartrix a very, very good card. Now, in at number 8, we've got Zoroark, one of my very favourite cards in the set. And it's not for the free energy 100, that's terrible, nobody cares. But for 2 energy, you deal 60 damage for each EX and Pokemon V your opponent's got in play. And there's going to be some matchups where your opponent doesn't play any and that's gutting. And there's going to be some matchups where your opponent has to play all their EXs and Vs because that's how their deck works, and that's going to be amazing. And then there's those support Pokemon like Luminion that your opponent won't want to play, but either they don't play it and they want to and that hurts them, or they do play it and you get an extra 60 damage. Or they don't play it and you play accompanying Flute, grab it out the top 5 cards of their deck and play it anyway. I adore Zoroark, and I do think accompanying Flute makes a massive difference. In at number 7, we've got Kyurem, and Kyurem's a weird one because it's very specific. It's got 5 energy, and you do 110 to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. Clearly, doing 110 to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon is nuts, but also 5 energy is ridiculous. But if your opponent's got any card in the discard pile that's got Colress in the name, you get to use this for 1 colourless energy. Now, there is a new Colress card in the set, lets you search for a stadium and a special energy. It's fine. It's not amazing. It's fine. Some decks might play it. But mostly here, it's for Colress's Experiment. Those Lost Zone decks are playing a bunch of 110 HP and less Pokemon. And they kind of have to play Colress's Experiment, or they don't, and their deck is massively slower than it should be, and that's a massive win for you. It is a phenomenal Lost Zone counter, but it's also a card which can help out in a bunch of other matchups as well. You add that all together, and this looks awesome. In at number 6, we've got Bloodmoon Ursaluna, and this is one of those cards where I actually like the ability and the attack. Now, the ability is the kind of one we've seen before. When you bench it, you can attach 2 fighting energy to it, so you can essentially get 3 energy on in 1 turn. And that actually works really nicely with the attack. 3 energy, so bench it with 2, attach for turn, you're rolling. 100 damage, plus 30 more for each damage counter already on the defending Pokemon. That's clearly brilliant. But it's also great in stuff like Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt lets you discard as much energy in play as you like, and deal 70 for each one discarded. This is an extra 140 damage on Raging Bolt. Or if you can move it onto fighting Pokemon, it's energy acceleration, the likes of which we don't usually see, or it's just an attacker in its own right. Either way, I love it. In at number 5, we got Fezandipiti EX, and this is one of those ones that we know is going to be good, because it's got Oricorio GX's ability, and that was good. Except this actually has a better attack. Now, it's free energy, and it does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's fine. It's not great, but it's colourless energy, and it can be used. Oricorio GX was a terrible attacker. This is it's a decent attacker. It has an attack. But mostly, it's got a phenomenal ability. If one of your Pokemon was KO'd during your opponent's last turn, yeah, you get to draw 3 cards. And it's limited to once. Even if you've got multiple Fezandipiti, you only get 1 of the ability. But drawing 3 cards is good. This is a good card. In at number 4, we've got Janine's Secret Technique. Lets you choose 2 of your Darkness Pokemon and attach 1 Darkness energy to each of them from your deck. It accelerates 2 energy from your deck, which is absurd. Absolutely absurd. Now, if you attach to your active, you have to poison, which is generally bad, but I'm going to show you Okidogi later in this list that does 130, but then an extra 130 if you're poisoned. I'm going to show you Binding Mochi, which is a tool card that says you do an extra 40 damage if you're poisoned. See where we're going with this? You don't mind being poisoned, ladies and gentlemen. This is awesome. In a format where we've already got Dark Patch, adding this in makes Darkness decks really good in terms of energy acceleration. This is a big deal. Now, in at number 3, a card that I did initially have lower, but I had a chat with a lovely Joe Bernard who convinced me it really is a top 3 card, Pecharunt EX. And again, I like the ability and the attack. The ability lets you switch one of your Darkness Pokemon on the bench into the active. It's a free switch. Against control decks that want to trap you in the active, this basically says you can't be trapped, which is brilliant. It does poison if you switch to the active, but again, we've got cards that take advantage of that. And then 2 energy, 60 damage for each prize card your opponent's taken. This adds up very, very quickly. It's a great late game card for finishing out the game, and you've got a perma switch always on board. Oh, this card is good. Now, in at number 2, we got Zoroark Scheme, one of my least favourite cards in the set. It is a supporter card that says your opponent must discard cards from their hand until they only have 3 cards remaining. It's really, really annoying. but there are going to be plenty of games where your opponent's got lots of cards in hand. And you know what? This is going to wreck them. And it's going to be hilarious. Get ready to hear a lot of your friends very saltily saying how they lost to Zoroark, because it's going to happen. And that means, of course, that number one has to be Okidogi EX. It's a phenomenal card. It's got 250 HP as a basic Pokemon, which is extremely high. It needs free energy to attack, but that's okay. We've got both Janine and Dark Patch. And then free energy, 130. But if it's poisoned, it does 260. And again, we've got plenty of ways to poison. We've got that Binding Mochi that does an extra 40. With some poison modifiers, you can KO literally anything. And you've even got the first attack that accelerates 2 energy from your deck to it and leaves it poisoned, which you hope you don't have to use, but it's there if you need it. This card is phenomenal. I love it, and I'm pretty confident it's the best card in the deck. So there we go. That's what you need to know. And now it's over to you guys. Do you like my top 10 list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you want to give me a full top 10 in the comment section? I'd love it if you did. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk Pokemon and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.